In this video, I'm going to be making my own customized hoodie. That took me a second. And as of now, I have 4 hoodies, but I'm attempting to add a little bit more to that collection. So I don't see there's a need for a big long intro, so here we go. For my supplies, I've got my fabric I'm going to sew on, my hoodie obviously. We have the needle and thread and some scissors. So getting right into it is planning and cutting. Planning is also very important because if you don't do it, like you could be working on a project and then realize you're like, oh wait, did I just mess this thing up and potentially ruin the whole thing that you were trying to do? And like it might have taken you like a really long time to do it, and you just like towards the end you realize that you like messed up and you can't continue anymore. And then another thing is that I don't know if you could tell, but I didn't even plan enough, and like I even messed up because I went and I used Sharpie for outlining it and everything, realizing that Sharpie when I labeled it kind of bled through a little bit. But that's, I went along with it still. See, I didn't even plan enough. I'm talking about it too, which is pretty sad. Not gonna lie, I did not care for the cutting out the stars and stuff, because even though it's like the easiest part of this project and the thing that took the less time, other than the satisfaction at the end, of course, but it took me like not that much time at all, and I don't know why I didn't like doing it. It was just something about it. I also have a question for everyone watching this video. What kind of favorite like art genre they like listen to? Like, what's your favorite one? Like, there's musicals, classic classical, country, rap? Like, what kind of music do you guys listen to? So this next part for like sewing the front, I started sewing, and here goes like the long stretch. It took me 1 hour to do the smallest star on the front. Like, that's actually really sad because it was one whole hour. And like I thought my hands were like done after a while, and I was like, I'm gonna come back and I'll reset and I'll do it again. And then it was a little bit better. Like, I could not sit down for the whole time I did. Like, I could not sit down the whole time and start sewing the whole time. That would be not so good for my hands, and my brain would be brain dead at the end, which would honestly not be far from how it usually is after school, but still. Another mistake I did, of course, another one, was I started sewing the pocket, right? Started sewing the pocket star, and then I realized I was sewing through both of the front materials. I was sewing through the pocket, like the first material part where I'm supposed to, and then I sewed past that through like the back part of the pocket. Like, I don't know how to explain this, but like you wouldn't be able to put your hand in the pocket. In other words, if you know what I mean, if you know, you know. Like, it's my words not wording, honestly. And after once I started getting like the first star done, sir, it took me like forever to still do it and still sew the whole time, but it was a tiny itsy bitsy a little bit faster. So that helped a little bit that I went slightly faster, other than that whole 1 hour. Like, what? I lost probably a couple minutes less of sewing though. So like I was getting better, but not that much. Like, of how quickly I was doing it wise. Enough talking about like what I've done, but I'm just gonna give you some tips as an amateur sewing person. I don't even know what it's called. That's not the point though. I'm getting off track. Is the first one of my first tips is like pinning your fabrics down. Like, as you can see, I have a sewing needle in the inside holding my star together, so it's not moving around and such. Like, it would, and if that wasn't there and I just started sewing, I could have lumps and like well, not lumps, but like it could fold over and make little folds in your stuff. Like when you're sewing, it's not gonna look as like good. And then another one's take your time. Is that like this is a thing that, like, if you're going into it, you should know it's going to take a while if you want it to look good, because like stuff can get sloppy, and then it's not that strong and doesn't hold together as well and stuff like that once you just add it adds time, but it'll make it worthwhile and make it look better. Continuing on the tips is Another one is folding your string in half because it will just when you start stitching, it makes it stronger and like less chance of it actually like coming apart and like or the string breaking. It also depends what kind of string you get because there's more like decorative string and then there's different kinds. Like if you go to a store that has a bunch of different kinds of string, like Hobby Lobby for one or Joanne Fabrics, they have a huge like side aisle of string and there's different kinds like for sewing embroidery and there's just different stuff because like how the string looks and then how like strong and durable it is another thing and then leaving like room when you're sewing like leave room on the edge like leeway so like if you're sewing and stuff you like if the edge is fray a little bit and then that like the part where your stitches are too close to the edge of that phrase, it will just literally come undone. And it will be kind of like ruin the whole thing of sewing it together because, it won't be that. Another thing is that when you like sew, you can like flip it, like sew it on the inside and then flip it out so you have a clean edge and you won't have that extra like the end sticking out. This project you can see I have the edge out still on the front, but that was how I wanted it to be. That was just like the style that I picked that I went for. So yeah, and then smaller stitches makes it another thing that makes it stronger. And I know it takes time, but like I said, taking your time, like I said earlier, it's like taking your time in doing it will have better quality and have it look nicer and better and more worthwhile. So, and then like not the ends of your string, so like in the inside, not the like outside and stuff, where people can just see that little small knot, and then like the extra like end piece of the string sticking out because it would look kind of weird. Because if you've seen some of the other things I've done, you can see like the back is like, ooh, what happened there? But then the top and the side that everyone sees is like, oh, that's nice, you know that's the other one. And it also makes it look like just more professional if it's in the inside and at the bottom where no one sees it. And last but not least, like when you finish sewing and stuff, when you're like at the end of the string, don't want to give yourself too little amount of string to tie it or too much because then it can get harder and you can pull the rest of your string. It can sometimes make what you're ever like sewing fold a little bit. So you don't want to like pull on it a ton and it just helps because like if you have like too much it's hard to do and if you have too little it's like you're not able to make that little tiny hole that you have to loop it through and one of my tips is that you leave the length of the sewing needle plus 3/4 of an inch like roughly you don't have to go like base physically like strictly on that but like as long as your sewing needle and then like a 3/4 inch after so you have time so you can like be able to pull and make a little knot with the sewing needle on so you don't have to go and like take it off and fiddle and fumble with your fingers trying to tie it. You can just tie it with the needle and it like takes not joking less than 3 seconds to do and you can just do like a couple of them and tie it and secure it and then you're done. Those are the tips I have for you, and I hope it helps if you ever try doing something like this or something similar, or just trying any kind of embroidery, not embroidery, so any kind of sewing stuff that maybe this stuff has helped, and you can keep it in mind because it has helped me with my sewing stuff. Not that I do it all the time, but when I do. Enjoy the CapCut music that I have to play because I can't use like songs that anyone knows. I have to use the beats and stuff or whatever. So I have to make do, but it works. So hope you like it for like the little bit I play it. finally, I am finally done halfway. The front took me about 3.5 hours. Like, that's actually kind of sad, but you know, the great reward becomes with great sacrifices. Not sacrifices, but time. This is time, okay? But I kind of wanted to get this done also before Monday, which obviously by the time this gets posted, it's way past Monday. But that's not the point. The point is I got to be able to wear it during Monday, and because I have a lot of other things that I do, so I gotta keep up with this and then do the other activities I have in my life, like after school and all that type of stuff. So this section is sewing the stars in the back, and it took me like even longer to do this because I decided to add extra stars that I just because it didn't feel right to not have like at least one on one of the arms at least, and then I put one on the hoodie, and then we just kind of added another thing. I promise, if you didn't skip to the end of the video, I promise I didn't put too many, and I didn't put them all over the place, but. And sadly, what happened was I actually stabbed myself 6 times throughout this project. And most of them were on the same star too. Like I don't know what happened, but that's not the point. I've said that so many times. Like I should count how many times I've said that's not the point because I apparently get off track a lot, and I need to say that to myself. Delusional. But I almost said it again. I almost did. Like I still have a scar from where I stabbed myself one time, but other than that, it was just tiny little pricks and type stuff. I'm just being dramatic and calling it a stab, but it's not really. So yeah. Another thing I forgot to mention was that when I did the pocket hoodie, I was kind of contemplating whether putting a light amount of stuffing inside the star, so you could squish it or something. I have no idea what I was thinking then, but then I realized that that wouldn't really work. And I also couldn't find my stuffing, so that kind of told me that it was just all these signs telling me not to put stuffing in there, so I went with it. I was like, you know what? I won't do it. This hoodie took me about 6 hours to make the front and back. That took a really long time. Back to the CapCut audio for a minute. thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, see you around next time.